Hello, team Made in Heaven. Welcome to Cinema Express. I'm Kartik. I want to start off with this. It has been 4 years since Made in Heaven season 1 came out. A lot of things has changed over the years. There has been COVID. Weddings themselves have changed a lot. There was a time when there was only virtual weddings that were happening. There were only 50 people that were there in the weddings. When you were creating season 2, was this all this in your head when you were writing it?
To be honest, we started writing season 2 soon after season 1 came out. So we were actually writing the show before COVID actually struck. And I think COVID, of course, it was such a tragedy and across the world, and it, of course, affected us. But I think that, of course, it disrupt. And then when we had to start shooting, COVID happened. We started shooting, then the second wave happened. So I think it ended up disrupting our scheduling and our production logistics. And I think, of course, we've all grown and changed as people through COVID. But I don't think, it's not like how weddings happened during COVID is something that we decided to sort of necessarily make a very big statement about that in Made in Heaven.
Was COVID the only reason for the delay, or there were some creative additions also that needed to be made, and you thought that there should be more polishing that should happen in the script?
It did take time to write the script, and the kind of show Made in Heaven is, from season 1 to season 2, we definitely wanted to scale up. So we wanted bigger weddings, we wanted more of a guest cast. So it's not an easy sort of series to schedule and produce. So we did have a lot of logistical things that in terms of scheduling, and we were really disrupted by the second wave as well. So I think, and we didn't want to compromise and not do what we had envisioned. So I think we took a call that we will take longer to make it if, our scheduling is not working out, we haven't got the locations that we need. We'd rather aim for what we really want, even if it's going to take longer, because at the end of the day, we didn't want the season to suffer. So we thought that the wait is well worth it. And honestly, it's not like we were just sitting around and, we randomly delayed the season. I think it took longer to write and it's taken longer to actually shoot. And then we finished shooting only, last year. And then we've been editing and doing post-production. So and also I think what people don't realize is, because even Made in Heaven season 1 was not such a quick process. Actually, we took a year to write, then we shot it, then we edited. So even that was actually, it wasn't a very quick turnaround. It's not that kind of show. The canvas is too large for it to be a show where you can just make it very quickly and shoot it very quickly and all of that.
Neeraj, welcome to the Made in Heaven team.
Thank you.
I want to ask this. When I read your name in the director's list, it's a very unexpected addition for me, because your previous work hasn't been in this zone exactly. When you were approached, were you apprehensive about it? How would you approach it and how would you go about it?
Apprehensive in the sense of, I think with respect to the aesthetic and technicality of it, because it's a different world that I'm, not world, but I think tonally it was different from what I've done before. So that was a challenge which I loved, which I wanted to get my teeth in. But emotionally, and I think fundamentally what has happened is that I think I vibed very well with the writers, and their worldview and mine are quite close. So that instantly helped me to, I never felt like a new director on set. It felt like we've been working for a long time. And we had that camaraderie with all of us. And I'm a prepper. I like to prep a lot. So I enjoy that the writing took a long time, because everything had to be in place before you get on set. So that has been there, and aesthetically, yes. But I think fundamentally, storytelling is actually the same. You have the same emotions. You have, at a base level, these 4-5 elements remain the same of storytelling. The world may change, the facade may change, the milieu may change, but fundamentally remains the same. So I absolutely enjoyed it.
Was there any sort of briefing you gave to Neeraj, or Zoya or Rima gave to Neeraj when, introducing the world of Made in Heaven to him?
I think it was not like that at all. I think we just hung out and chatted and
See, the biggest reference was there is the season 1 that you could watch. and you can just understand what you need to do, I guess.
And I think, when we were writing, I think there were some episodes where we thought it'd be nice to, like to have Neeraj on board. So we actually started meeting and chatting way before we actually got into production. So I think that really helped. And I think it's a very easy kind of, I know people find it, they're like, oh my God, so many people involved, but it's been a very easy collaboration. And I do think it comes from Zoya and Rima, because I remember when I was first, when they had called me to write for season, when they had just thought of the show, I was just like thinking that, Zoya and Rima have been writing together for so long and I'll be this new entrant, I don't know how it's going to be, but it was so comfortable. So I think that spirit of collaboration really does come from them, and they've really taught me what actually it is to sort of collaborate. And I think that spirit continued into, from writing season 1 to shooting season 1 to writing season 2 to then shooting season 2. So I think we have that very easy kind of feeling, and we never felt that Neeraj is new to the crew. It felt like he's always been there, and I think he got everything, and we all really like respect Neeraj and really value his work. So I think it was very comfortable, and there was not a sense of, it wasn't so formal like, okay, now like this one has to be. I think it was very easy and a lot of like free flowing conversations and ideas and discussions and debates and arguments. And I think that's what makes Made in Heaven very special, because I think we enjoy engaging with each other, whether it's at the writing stage, it's the directing stage, it's at the editing stage. And I think the show benefits from that kind of value creating discussion.
You guys explored so many themes when it comes to season 1. Okay, there was themes of dowry and women being forced into marriage. One thing when I was watching season 1, one thing I found lacking was there was no theme of interreligious or an intercaste marriage. Was there a reason behind that?
I mean, if we think about, that was the first season, and we had those many episodes and those many stories. We had a lot of ideas, and I think for various reasons in terms of what is going to help build a narrative purpose for the main protagonist, like how that ties in with the MIH crew story. So I think we made certain choices. We made a different set of choices for season 2. So I think there are a lot of factors, and there are so many themes in so many things that come up and so many issues that are there in all different kinds of weddings, that I feel that one season can't cover everything. But look out for season 2. We have a lot of things coming up in season 2.
I want to know, like, managing a wedding and managing a film set is a very, similar process. Sort of anything can go wrong at any moment. And managing a set of Made in Heaven is like managing 10 weddings, because if you go by the one wedding per one episode format, how daunting is it for you guys to manage such a big set? Neeraj, you are the new one, I think.
See, a wedding is very difficult to shoot. Direct. Because just the scale of it, like putting together a wedding is one thing, but to actually shoot it in a day or two, that is huge, because we can't even shoot in 2 days, because you cannot make the set again for the 2 days. You can't be standing. So emotionally, yes, because emotionally we get into a lot of nuances about conflict of a marriage. What is the basic thing that, a lot of homework has been done in the writing. But when it comes to execution, I think it becomes super challenging, because you also have to take care of the grandeur. You also have to take care of the family dynamics, the issues, the conflicts they are going through. And you have to also see Made in Heaven's role in the wedding that's going through. So there are multiple things that crisscross, and that is very challenging to handle. And also when you have a set of 300 artists on set, and to manage that and also to get it all together in a day is very challenging. So wedding wise, I think weddings are of course most difficult to shoot, but it's been absolutely fun to like do that.
There are so many interesting cameos this season. There is Radhika Apte, there is Mrunal Thakur, and Laz is there. What is the process of like casting a bride or a groom for a Made in Heaven thing? Like, how do you guys go about it?
I think it stems from, first of all, what is the character of the bride or the groom. So we jam together, we jam independently for our episodes with the casting director, who's Nandini Shrikant and Karan Mali. So I think a lot of discussion, we bounce off ideas of each other, we have long chats about it. And then, the casting director reaches out to people who we feel are, would be good for the part. And it kind of works out like that. We were very fortunate that we had season 1 behind us. So it was easier to get guest appearances and cameos because people knew the show. And I think a lot of people literally just came on the show because they really liked season 1. So they were very happy to sort of come and be a part of it. So I think we were very fortunate. We got some amazing, really interesting cast as, doing cameos. I don't know if you want to add anything.
No, same thing actually. I mean, the writing came first. I mean, because the characters were written. Because while writing, I don't think none of us even like thought of any names or anything. It was written, and then I think the names started popping up. The cameos started popping up, and then we would evaluate with Nandini and Karan, like who do we think is the best. That's fairly been the process, and of course after that, working with the actors and has been like.
I read Anurag's name also in the list. Like, I'm really excited for his cameo. Didn't see much in the trailer.
You watch. There are many more who are not seen in the trailer. There are lots more. It's a bag of surprises. Not reveal everything in the trailer.
Alankrita, I want to talk about last season, specifically the last 2 episodes which were directed by you. There was this very nice detail which I didn't know about these grooming places which are there in Delhi which groom women. I want to get a little deep into it. How did you come across it? Like, was this a research or like?
It's a very strange thing. So much of Made in Heaven comes from my knowingness of Delhi. Yeah, I think it's like, I could be like, oh no, we had to research this and all that. But I guess I know Delhi. I know what East Delhi is. I understand that sense of aspiration. So I think a lot of it, I can't put my finger on like where I knew this, but I've always sort of known it. Those grooming schools do exist, and I was very keen that, it was very clear where Tara comes from. She comes from Lakshmi Nagar, from East Delhi, and there is a sense of it being the other side of the tracks, which was very key to her story, which is why I shot in that area. And there are these grooming schools, and they do train women, and I feel like it's about what is happening in society in terms of aspiration. You want that because you feel that polish will help you getting jobs, getting marriages or whatever. And I think we dealt with that theme of that Tara has prepared herself and is preparing herself to sort of enter that world without any judgment, because I think as writers, we never judge our characters, and we definitely felt like this is what she has done, because she hasn't just made it. She has put in effort. Like, how is she going to become an insider? How is she going to get into that world? And so it is like that. It's not, there are many schools, they do many more things. I mean, we just had one scene, but I think it's about in India where there is a lot of aspiration, and I think it's fine, because that feeling of, I also want that social capital, I also want that thing. So I think to kind of hone into that, and also that it doesn't happen automatically. I mean, Tara has made a consistent effort to get out of where she is and where she's reached, and it's a remarkable kind of a journey, because it's not in Delhi, it's not that easy to jump class, and the show is a lot about otherness and also about insiders and outsiders, and how Tara and Karan, though they might seem like insiders, are actually outsiders who want to be insiders. So it's so I would say that there's a lot of, like, I think a lot of stuff that we know, and of course you do know that it exists because those schools are there, and there are a lot of them in East Delhi as well.
This is very interesting, why? Because always whenever creators are making a story of Delhi, it always ends up being a story of class, or jumping classes. I want to know why. Like, why is class is so important when it comes to a Delhi story?
Because I think in Delhi, you're always asked, where do you live? What does your father do?
Jamuna Par.
Jamuna Par.
Yes.
Delhi is a city where power is at the center of everything. And it's not just about money power. It's about all kinds of power: political power, social power, cultural capital. So it it's genetically, I feel, in the city for some, I guess, because it's the capital, it's the power center,
Yeah.
because of politics. It's also a landlocked city, so there are people from all over who actually come into Delhi, and there is this constant and there is this kind of tug that's happening, like who can become a person who is
Yeah.
holding the reins to the city. So I think that is something, and I guess filmmakers want to explore it, especially people who've lived in Delhi, because you know what happens, and it's a very interesting thing, and it's like it's a very lived thing as well. So I think that's why it comes into a lot of stories about Delhi. That's my guess. I don't know if you have any
I've
other
had actually an
thoughts.
example where uh, way back I was in a corporate setup. I was hiring a team, and then so so one guy, I was doing recruitments and I was interviewing people. So this guy called at my desk somehow and he said, "सर मैं आ गया था यहाँ पे और मैं सोच रहा था अपनी मारुति स्टील में कहाँ पार्क करूँ." And that's when I first got the glimpse of what Delhi is, because that's the second day probably in Delhi that I moved in. And I didn't know what to say to him. I said, interview ho gaya, ab jao. And then, my team members, all of them, so for some reason I didn't buy a car because I was too lazy.
Yeah.
And people saw it at such a thing, like all my team members had cars and they would make excuses. Sir, मैं आज ना आपके घर से होते जा रहा था, मैं आपको छोड़ दूँ? Because they cannot digest that I will take public transport.
Yeah.
It was so weird. Like in Bombay, you can take any public transport, but people found it very offensive that I was taking public transport at that time. It's like, anyway,
They
that
really
defines you,
look.
Delhi.
Yeah. So when I was in college in Delhi, I had a CLO, and because I was a college student and I had a CLO, people had this, like it's exactly what he's saying. I didn't have to say it. People would be
Yeah.
like, "Oh, you drive a CLO." So I'm like, "It's not my car. It's my parents' car. I'm just using it." But
Yeah.
that association with, like, this is the car that you drive, therefore this is how you must be. It's just, I can't explain it. You have to live there to know. It's just there.
Yeah, even in like West Delhi, I heard from somebody that they have a Mercedes and they've put CNG in it.
It's 100% possible. It's 100.
Absolutely
That's
possible.
totally Delhi.
Absolutely possible.
Okay, last question, Alankrita. I want to discuss the scene, the gold digger scene, which is there, which became very popular after season 1. Is when Shobita takes all the ornaments and wears them, and she lies down in the bathtub. It's a very interesting scene, very very poignant image. I want to know, how did you concoct it? How was it shot? How did you come up with it?
I think when we had written it, it was just like she's taking the jewelry and then she's going to, I think that's what we had written, that she's going to wear it and she kind of looks at herself. But I think that when I was thinking of shooting it, I just thought that rather than her sitting in the dressing room in front of the mirror, why don't we just shoot her in the... I mean, I don't know, it is very organic. I was like, we should just shoot her in the bathtub with the thing. So I shifted the scene from where it was meant to be, which is in front of the mirror and the dressing table, and I just shifted it into the... I just thought it'll be more cinematic. And I think it was just that. But it was, I think the thing was the fact that we wanted her to be this character who, in that moment, that she needs this.
Yeah.
So then when she takes the jewelry in the end,
Yeah.
you know that it's like, it is so hard for her actually to walk out also and to have that whole thing with Adil, because she has lived her whole life to be in this place and to have all these things. So it's not just the jewelry, it's about status, position, and if she walks away from this, can she really? And I think that's the question that season 2 answers. Can she really? She did leave with the jewelry, but can she really walk away from what she has grown up desiring, been trained to acquire, even been training by her mother to actually just kind of acquire this. So, and I think, like, again, doing it without judgment, that like we had no judgment in writing Tara as a person who wants it, because it's absolutely okay if that's who you are and that's what you want. So I think it was that scene of like, this is who she is and what she desires, which is why we had sort of written it, and for me it's like, yeah, it's an image that that kind of has sort of stayed, and it has really become like an iconic image. But I think it's very telling, and I think Shobita, she's also performed it very beautifully, and so yeah, you feel who she is. Yeah.
There are so many types of weddings that has been explored in season 1, but I want to ask you guys personally, like, what constitutes for you guys as the perfect wedding?
There's no perfect wedding as such. Like, I don't know.
Like, what is that one thing that should not go wrong in a wedding? Maybe it's the catering or
The food. We are all we are all foodies.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Food can't go wrong.
Food can't go wrong. And the one thing which I was just telling them in the one of the previous interviews is that in Delhi, a very typical thing is there'll be lots and lots of food served everywhere, and people will eat, but they will be discussing food changa nahi tha, like, totally, like, it wasn't good. This thing wasn't good. That like it's. And I'm like, you have eaten so much. You have eaten 20 cuisines and you're still dissing the food. So,
कचौड़ी में अजवाइन कम पड़ गया.
On that note, thank you so much, guys, for speaking to me. Best of luck for Made in Heaven season 2.
Thank you.